With the 2023 playoffs about to be underway, I want to take a look at every single contender this year and what their biggest issue is. Now, there are debates on which teams are true contenders and which aren't, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna talk about the top 5 seeds from each conference. Alright, how's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, let's get started. The Milwaukee Bucks, Khris Middleton's injury. In the first round of the 2022 playoffs, Middleton suffered a sprained MCL. While it wasn't initially deemed a serious injury, it sidelined him for the rest of the playoffs. He was expected to make a full recovery by now, but throughout the course of this season, at one point he sat out 18 straight games due to knee soreness. Middleton has had spurts of playing very well, but he just isn't the same player as before. He's shooting the 3 at the worst percentage since his rookie season. His absence has led to the Bucks' offense looking quite shaky and stagnant for most of the season, despite their phenomenal record. Fortunately, guys like Jrue Holiday and Brook Lopez have stepped up in his place. Come playoff time, the question remains: can Middleton return back to form? If they want to win the title again, they need him to perform like the Khris Middleton of before. The Boston Celtics live and die by the 3. This has been the Celtics' kryptonite in the last few seasons. We've heard it in the media too, they rely too much on jumpers. In fact, they're second in the entire NBA in 3-point attempts per game, launching over 42 of them per game. The only team that shoots more is the Warriors, but they do have 2 of the best shooters of all time. The Celtics, on the other hand, we've seen it in the previous playoffs where if their shot isn't falling, they keep forcing it, and sometimes they keep missing, and the game can run away from them. Jason Tatum is the biggest offender of this. Previously, he's had a shaky playoff run, and with his kind of playstyle, he lives and dies by his jumper. The Celtics are only 23rd in points in the paint this year, which exemplifies this issue. They'll need to adapt and find more shots closer to the basket if their shots aren't falling. The Philadelphia 76ers. Can James Harden be the secondary star they need? Obviously, they got Tyrese Maxey too, but Harden is the guy that we should expect more out of. In last year's playoffs, Harden looked way too passive, at least by his standards. Whenever Joel has an off night, they need Harden to take over. We were waiting for him to do that, but it never happened. He continued playing his role as the primary distributor, not trying to carry his team like he used to back in Houston. However, perhaps he needs to start doing that more. Embiid struggled in last year's playoffs, but Harden was nowhere to be seen. He needs the support, he needs somebody else to take over when he's having a bad game. Harden has gotten comfortable in his role as a supporting playmaker, but I think he still has the ability to tap into his scoring when they need him. The Cleveland Cavaliers, very little playoff experience. Besides Donovan Mitchell, the Cavs don't have much playoff experience at all. I guess Jarrett Allen and Caris LeVert both played in just 9 playoff games. The rest of the roster, though, is very young and inexperienced. Now, just from a pure number standpoint, the Cavs have the 9th best offense and the number 1 ranked defense in the league. They're a fantastic team from top to bottom, with few weaknesses. Perhaps they are a little bit weak at the wings in terms of size, and their undersized backcourt could be taken advantage of by teams with longer, more athletic players. But Mitchell and Garland are so talented that they've overcome that. Overall, they've got a fantastic frontcourt duo and backcourt duo, and they're going to shock a lot of people. Like with all young teams, hopefully the pressure of the playoff atmosphere won't get to them. The New York Knicks, Julius Randle. Well, I guess the Knicks are contenders now, right? I don't know about that, but they are firmly holding the 5th seed, and we're covering the first 5 seeds from each conference, so I can finally talk about them. So, a few years back, the Knicks made the playoffs and Julius Randle, despite having an all-star season, he severely underperformed against the Hawks. He averaged 18 points a game on a horrific 29.8% field goal percentage. This time, however, the Knicks are way better than before and have a new leader in Jalen Brunson. But Randle is still their X factor, and now with his ankle injury keeping him out for a few weeks, hopefully he can recover in time and redeem himself this time. Randle, I love the guy, but he's had such a roller coaster of a season. At times, it looks like he's a superstar. Other times, he's getting himself ejected, he has a quick temper, And you can tell his play gets affected whenever he gets emotional. If he can just control himself, these are the things that will determine how far the Knicks can go in the playoffs. The Denver Nuggets, Jokic's defense. It's a running theme that Jokic's defense is subpar. He's not a terrible defender. In the post, he's strong, he's solid, thick, and has a lot of presence in the paint. But in the playoffs, teams will attack him. They'll switch to try to get a mismatch on him. They'll take him out to the perimeter where he cannot keep up. Very few centers can keep up with elite perimeter players. But in the case of Jokic, he also runs the entire Nuggets offense. Teams routinely employ the strategy of trying to wear him out at the other end, so his offense gets affected too. A lot of people have labeled the Nuggets as a, paper tiger, meaning despite their excellence in the regular season, they're very vulnerable to losing in the playoffs. Being ranked just in the middle of the pack defensively with the 15th best defense, that's a red flag, especially for the first seed in the West. There are so many great scorers in the West, and some of them are on a lower-seeded playoff team, with a very real chance of knocking out the Nuggets. So they'll need to defend better. Though there are clear weaknesses on this team that we saw in the previous playoffs, they're finally healthy for the first time in years. So Jokic actually has help now. There's no more excuses. The Memphis Grizzlies, bad three-point shooting. The Grizzlies are 22nd in the NBA in three-point percentage, at 35%. And outside of Desmond Bane and Luke Kennard, the rest of their team is just so inconsistent at shooting. There's a reason they're number 1 in the NBA in points in the paint. On average, they score 58.6 points in the paint. That's first in the NBA by a decent margin. They kinda got the opposite problem as the Boston Celtics. The Grizzlies don't have many good shooters, and in the playoffs, we've seen it last year. Teams are more willing to leave their man on the perimeter and pack the paint. Out of all playoff teams, they have the worst spacing, the most erratic shooters, and I feel like their chemistry isn't the same as last year either. With the prolonged absences of Ja Morant, some other injuries, and off-court antics as well, it's been a distraction for the team. The Sacramento Kings, defense. The Kings have the number 1 offense in the NBA, but it's paired with the 26th best defense. Every time you have a team that's weak on defense like this, the opponents will find a way to take advantage of it. They've done well to just outscore opponents during the regular season, but when the game slows down and teams become more disciplined and methodical in their defense, the Kings' offense won't look as great as it does now. Defense has been a struggle for the Kings all season long, and according to coach Mike Brown, a lot of it is just the lack of physicality and leadership on defense. Quote, "I thought, more than anything else, our physicality, our pick-and-roll defense wasn't great. There were so many times that we either miscommunicated our coverage, didn't hear our coverage, they just rejected it and went straight downhill and dunked on us. And it's common to see random players on other teams go off on them. Still, I'm super happy to see the Kings back in the playoffs. It's been so long." The Phoenix Suns, chemistry with Kevin Durant. Durant arrived in Phoenix at the trade deadline, but he hasn't played much at all with the team, or even practiced with them that much. The Suns have had a myriad of injuries throughout the season, and combined with Chris Paul's regression, I don't know how they'll do in the playoffs. I feel like, in terms of pure talent, they're certainly capable of winning the title. The question is if they've had enough time to gel and mesh together, but if there's something I learned over the years, it's to never doubt Kevin Durant. Unlike most superstars, Kevin Durant can fit seamlessly into any roster, just because he's the best isolation scorer in the NBA. He doesn't need any setups or any complicated plays ran for him. You just call his number, give him the ball, and get out the way. If the Suns are healthy, I won't be surprised if they make a run at the title. The LA Clippers, Westbrook, the X Factor. Despite all the criticism that Westbrook has gotten over the last few seasons, he's found a home with the Clippers. He's not taking as many shots as he used to, and he's actually somewhat efficient now. Somewhat. I feel like the Clips are in a similar situation as the Suns. With all their injuries and their new addition in Westbrook at the deadline, they haven't had enough time to mesh together. From a pure talent perspective, like the Suns, they have what it takes to win the title. It's just the question of if they can put it all together. If Westbrook can play to his strengths, now surrounded by much bigger threats on the wings, he should have more space to drive into the paint and put pressure on the defense. The Clippers don't need him to score, they don't need him to shoot. They just need him to be a threat to score. And of course, I know the Warriors are not a top 5 seed this year, but they just won the title. I can't leave them out. In my opinion, their biggest issue is turnovers. They're second in the NBA in turnovers per game, committing 16.3. And their defense dropped off to 17th, despite being first last year when they won the title. However, the turnovers issue, it was a problem last year too, but when the playoffs began, they're much more locked in and focused. Over the season, they've been lackadaisical. Sloppy passes, careless turnovers, a lack of effort, Draymond literally giving up on plays. It feels like there's a lot of tension in the locker room. However, we've seen moments like this before, and come playoff time, they get it together. I'm never gonna doubt the defending champs, but this is the most vulnerable the Warriors have been in a long time. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were the biggest problems of every contending team of each conference. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree or disagree with some of my assessments? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.